A very good morning to you and yours on this 9th day of November 2022, 4 months since the general elections that ushered in a new government. Now, the new Kenya Kwanza government has since formed and shaped up its government and is shaping it up in order to fulfill the pledges it made. One of those pledges in its first 100 days include commissioning a review and remuneration terms of services for all officers in the security sector to be commensurate with the cost of living. The welfare of officers is going to be the entree of Inspector General nominee Japheth Koome. If the Parliament will approve his name, the former Nairobi County Police Commander will also be tasked into, among others, finding a solution to the banditry attacks that have become a thorn in the country's flesh for years. So this morning, we seek to find out if Koome is the silver bullet the country needs. Welcome to Morning Cafe on this beautiful Wednesday morning. My name is Stanley. During it, I'll be holding court with Embakasi North Member of Parliament Honorable James Gakuya and Matuga Member of Parliament Honorable Tindaza Sawa as we converse through matters national security, education reforms and the CDF, which legislators are still trying to push for its reintroduction. You can always be part of the conversation on all our social media platforms, which are below your screens right now, and we'll also be getting your views on our weekly segment of Bunge la Mwananchi. But first, let's take a look at the dailies this morning, and we'll start with the Daily Nation. We'll also be conversing through the Standard, which you have here, and also the People Daily. And taking a look at the Daily Nation, the front page is one particular story that made headlines and caused a whole storm yesterday, both on Daily Nation and obviously on the Standard. So there we have it, storm over plot to end term limits. We'll definitely be having that on your screens right now. So no, please, country has more pressing matters to deal with, leaders tell Member of Parliament. So now turning back, we stand for open democracy, which Kenyans labored to achieve and attain. It did not come on a silver platter, but through shedding of blood, and given the distance and miles we have covered, we cannot go back from that position. The party stands for a 2-term limit for the presidency. This is a quote by the UDA chairman, Johnson Muthama. So 75 years, the age at which Salah Yakub, that is Honorable Member of Parliament for Fafi, who is Member of Parliament under the UDA, wants a person to be barred from running for presidency, rather than the current constitutional limit of 2 terms. And we'll definitely be obviously talking about that, and I'll be getting a reaction from the legislators this morning who will be joining us. So the ruling Kenya Kwanza Alliance yesterday reacted angrily to revelations by Fafi MP Salah Yakub of a plan to remove presidential term limits, with UDA Chairman Johnson Muthama cautioning that the president's party believes in quote-unquote open democracy and the rank and file of the coalition, calling the members of parliament MP's remarks personal and hot air. Right, that story is extensive on page 4. We'll be taking a look at that at the top of the Daily Nation this morning. SGR, inside the commercial contract no one wants to touch. That story, I'll be taking a look at that on page 8. And then senators give governors 14-day ultimatum over ghost workers, and Kolimo, that is a former, the late CEO of Safaricom, Bob Kolimo family, ends court fight for the estate. Below the Daily Nation, we have the vetting, and this is one story that we'll be diving into the flesh of it, digging into deeply the vetting of the Inspector General of Police, that is Japheth, the nominee, Japheth Koome. So 2017 post-election crackdown returns to haunt Koome. So Parliament puts police boss nominee to task over his role in the crackdown on the opposition protesters, raid on the University of Nairobi, and the brutality of officers. We'll be taking a look at that on page 8. And matters education. Remember, as I promised you, we'll be talking matters the funding of education and this will obviously boil down to the Constituency Development Fund and the bursaries involved there. So who is really responsible in matters funding for education and how to go about that? So Mashogu's big U-turn on university funding. The education CS quickly walks back on his plan to stop funding of public universities after a series of protests from parents, students and educationists. This story is on the back page. On the right side of the Daily Nation, my husband couldn't swim, laments wife on crash pilot. Right, this is on the sad story that happened on Sunday from the Precision aeroplane that crashed into the Lake Victoria on Sunday, which was scheduled to fly home on November 23rd to attend the preschool. Right, we'll definitely take a look at that story on page 10 extensively. Let's start with the cover story, which is on page definitely on page 2. We have the conference of parties which is happening in Egypt, and definitely the president William Ruto is attending that particular conference of parties, and we'll definitely be updating you on all that, which is extensive until next week. Rich nations on the spot of a climate crisis. Activists say global fossil fuels industry has been emboldened by the recent investments in oil and gas in Africa. Right, that is in Sharm el-Sheikh, that is in Egypt. And on page 3, women demand inclusion in climate change decisions. Right, and now to that particular story that I was telling you on the front page, the big story for both dailies. The controversy, opposition lawmakers and political experts also condemn proposal. So we're not seeking to scrap term limits, Ruto allies say. So in his own words, it's proposal, not party's stand. The member of parliament says. That is a Fafi member of parliament, Honorable Salah Yakub, yesterday defended his proposal, saying it was born out of consultations with members of parliament, but that did not have the blessings of the party. So, quote unquote, it is something that I believe in, but my proposal has nothing to do with UDA or DM or any other person. Some company chief executives have been in office for long, but have not been removed. Why? Because they're performing. That should be the basis and not term limits, said the Fafi member of parliament. So President's UDA party in his inner circle dismissed a proposal by a lawmaker to abolish term limits and replace it with the age limit. That story is extensive on page 4 and also on page 5. And also on page 5, just to quickly brush through this Daily Nation, Senate starts ghost workers probe. So graft that is in Nairobi, Mombasa, Nandi, Migori, Vihiga, Nyamira, Homa Bay cited. So current former governors of counties implicated in the fraud summoned for questioning. And this story was actually highlighted on the Daily Nation, the front page of the Daily Nation, which actually highlighted a number of the governors, the former governors actually, who were paid and also who actually paid ghost workers millions and billions of Kenyan shillings. So this probe has started. The Senate committee has given governors of counties implicated in the 35 billion Kenyan shillings payroll fraud 14 days to file written responses of the matter flagged by the Auditor General. Right. And away from that, you have something that's actually trended on yesterday, and it was a whole relief for passengers and cargo whole matters. Kenya Airways. So court orders striking pilots back to work. So pilots ordered to resume their duties pending the hearing and determination of a suit filed by the airline. More information on this: while Labour Court ordered the pilots to return to work, the decision by the court to compel the pilots to return to work came after the court-ordered negotiations flopped. The negotiations were expected to see both the sides drop the hardline stances on the dispute and how the pilots agreed to resume to work, and the airline withdrew the measures it had taken to advance the pilots. The Pilots Association said that since the industrial action commenced on Friday, several meetings have been held between the parties, the last being on Monday night, chaired by the Commissioner of Labour in the Ministry of Labour, basically. And now to page 8. Remember, this will form the basis of our conversation this morning. Matters national security, that is on page 8 of your Daily Nation. A reform. Comey admits corruption in the force is rampant and promises to tackle the issue head on. We'll be taking a look at what he's pledged and all that. 2017 violence comes back to haunt Comey. The Inspector General of Police, Dominic, tells lawmakers that he has never been found guilty of any wrongdoing. And just to quote what he told the lawmakers yesterday during his vetting, I want to see officers who observe provisions of the law, are professional, and treat people with dignity at all times. Right? And away from that, also just to quickly brush through that story that I told you on the Tanzania plane crash. Beg your pardon. My husband died, painful death. Can take a look at that story on page 10 of your Daily Nation. And to page 12, the whole secret and the revelation of the SGR saga. So page 12 says, SGR saga, the dirty details Murkomen did not disclose. Right. So at a glance, it shows that the key issues in the railway contracts. Number one, contracts was signed within 14 days of the feasibility study being adopted. Number two, the construction company, CRBC, was given a lot of leeway in the contracts, including freely varying the bill of quantities. Number three, arbitration of any disputes arising from the project will be done in China, and the company contracted to supervise the construction of the railway is owned by the Chinese government, just like the CRBC. So again, the whole question of what we should change in all these matters and all that. Transport CS on Sunday released the financing agreement, but kept the commercial contracts under wraps. All right. We'll definitely be waiting to see if we're going to ever see any of this, all contracts and all that. And still on Matters Daily Nation. Matters on page 14, hoteliers unhappy after Treasury suspends hotel meetings and trainings. And real quick on Matters sports. Before we actually get to sports, the whole projects and the whole SGR kind of dealings. So this brings up the whole project to be financed. Partnership, a total of 6 projects valued at 500 billion Kenyan shillings planned. So second largest project after SGR, lined up in deal with the United Kingdom. That is on the back page of your Daily Nation this morning. So mega dam expected to provide water for irrigation and produce 1,000 megawatts of electricity. So this is going to be under the Cabinet Secretary of Water, Ali Sohome, and who's going to be largely involved. So hopefully, for this particular project, hopefully we'll see all the documents before it even starts. Real quick on Matters sports. So it's the whole Olunga right there, and right, yeah, definitely what I was looking for the FIFA World Cup, and I'll actually be taking a look at that on the Standard. So title brings back Brazil aura, 6 title in his sights. So definitely it's a whole wait and see, with a few days actually till the World Cup 2022 FIFA World Cup to go. 11 days to go. Hopefully you've choosing your team by this moment. I think I'll probably go with France or Brazil. I'm still trying to debate that in my mind. If we're going to go with Brazil or France or maybe England, right? Definitely see and who's going to win this FIFA World Cup. Now to the Standard. And still on the front page of the Standard this beautiful Wednesday morning, storm over presidential term limit. So the 10-year limit, a suggestion by UDA MP to amend the 2-term presidential limit, raises political heat, with leaders dismissing it as a retrogressive move that will take the country back to dark days of political repression. But Salah Yakub sticks to his guns, insists debate to come to Parliament. That is on page 6 of your Standard. But before we go over to that particular story on the whole SGR and its dark secrets, and the whole revelation of the secrets on page 8. So Supreme Court's final card on SGR deal validity. And then I also have acid test for Biden in U.S. elections. This matters global news and U.S. matters. That is on page 26. And also now page 39 and 40 on your standard. Teams unveil the World Cup squads, right? I'll be taking a look at that with you just about now. So before we get to that, reprieve for KQ's court ends 4-day pilots strike. That story is extensive on page 4. Then to something that will form the meat of our conversation this morning. Kome, yes, graft is rampant in police force, but how will he take a look at that? How will he deal with matters graft in the police force? Now definitely start with page 4 of the Standard. So we do start with the court orders tracking pilots to resume to work, and let's take a look at the numbers right there. 300 million Kenyan shillings. This is what Kenya Airways says it is losing daily due to the ongoing strike by pilots. Wow. So the judge directs Kenya Airline Pilots Association members to report to work by 6 a.m. that is today. KQ management and the pilots are told to reach agreement to avoid further losses. And on the right side of page 4 also, Kome admits graft rife in police, say officers don't like their uniform, right? And it also gives you a whole insight right there on his qualifications and who he is since then. So Jefferson Kome, Inspector General nominee, was recruited into police service in 1981 as a graduate constable. His first posting was in Nairobi before moving to the anti-stock theft unit in Gilgil. Was promoted to the rank of Inspector General of Police. While serving in Gilgil and stayed there until 1998. In 1998, he was transferred from anti-stock theft unit to Buruburu as the Deputy Divisional Commander. He was among officers who received the anti-terror training at the Louisiana State Police Training Academy, that is in the US, following the 1998 bomb blast in Nairobi. He was transferred to Machakos and promoted as OCPD after the US training before being recalled to Buruburu. In 2002, he was transferred to the city center to deal with matters bank robberies. He then moved to Kiganjo Training College as an instructor. In 2005, he moved to police headquarters to be in charge of police housing, before moving up to become director of police planning. In 2015, he was transferred to Nairobi City as the commandant. After 2017 elections, he was transferred to Kenya Police Service headquarters as Principal Deputy to Deputy Inspector General. In 2019, he was transferred to National Police Training College, Kiganjo, as the commandant. Now, the whole reason that I take a look at all this is, and this is an issue that was raised yesterday during his vetting by one of the lawmakers, is that his role basically as police has been around Nairobi and its environs, Nairobi, Machakos and all that, but then he will be Inspector General if approved by the Parliament. But then now, taking a look at matters banditry and the livestock rustling in all the far-flung areas, is he equipped with matters outside Nairobi and its environs? So we'll be taking a look at that with the panelist this particular morning. And in matters page 5, the Conference of Parties, Ruto, we have diverted health money to feed starving Kenyans. He said this during an interview with one of the international media houses. So funds meant for hospitals, drugs and education being used to feed the population. The president concerned wealthier nations reneging on commitments made at the Conference of Parties, right? And also on what the president wants. The president calls on Africans to unite and tackle matters climate threat. That is on page 5 of your Standard this morning. Right, real quick now to page 6. A big story on both the dailies again. The whole move to change the constitution and change the whole cap to allow for 75 years, basically, instead of the 2 terms. And the Standard outlines the procedure according to the law now. The whole procedure of changing the presidential term limit. So, starting from Kenya introduced the 2-term limit in 1992 through the repeal of the Section 2A of the old constitution and retained this in the 2010 constitution. It outlines everything about what the constitution says and all that. You can take a look at that. And what also both the majority and also the minority say, and obviously what some constitutional layers say. And so according to them, some Kenyans have always been, Kenyans have always been in support of term limits, especially with the history under the one-party state. So we'll be taking a look at this. Is this just, storm in a teacup? Is this just going to be, basically making us forget about what is happening in the country and focus on such matters. And page 7, Health Year 6 KEMSA changes to boost efficiency and transparency. So the Health Year Susan Akumicha Wafula has spelled out a whole planned transformation on operations at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA to enhance efficiency. This is one authority that has been lined with matters, graft and all that. And millions of Kenyan shillings has been lost inside this authority. So how effective are these changes going to be? These changes are in line with the government's agenda on universal healthcare. So Ms. Nakomicha wants agency to be a one-stop shop for all health products. Real quick to page 8 on matters SGR. So the Supreme Court holds final card on the legality of the SGR contract. Court of Appeal had ruled that the government contravened procurement law in the deal. On Monday, Apex Court ruled that the case will go to the whole full trial. So we'll be waiting to hear what the Apex Court says on this matter. And real quick now to matters sports, what I had promised to take a look at. It's all about attackers Tite unveils Brazil's score. This is the whole 2022 Qatar World Cup. 11 days to go. I'm pretty sure you do have the whole butterflies in the stomach. What have you chosen the team to support yet and all that? So the Brazil World Cup squad, the goalkeepers, you have Alisson. Wow, this is going to be interesting. Edison, Manchester City, and Everton, Palmeiras. Defenders, you have them there. Dani Alves, Marquinhos, Thiago Silva, Eder Militao, Alexandro from Juventus, Alex Telles, and midfielders Casemiro, Fred, Fabinho, Bruno. Wow. At this point, I feel like I should actually just support Brazil or stick to maybe England or France. We'll be taking a look at that also. Now to matters that are making headlines this particular morning before we dive into a conversation. So Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has promised to employ the Kenya Medical Training College student who was captured on a video that went viral dancing for a patient at Kitale County District Hospital once she completes her studies. Our reporter Boniface Baraza has the details.
This is the video that captured Elizabeth Robai Lukelesia, the Kenya Medical Training College student attached at Kitale County District Hospital, that showed her dancing for a patient. The video went viral after she posted it on her social media platform TikTok account. It attracted debate on social media, with Kenyans weighing in on matters to do with patients' care. The move has seen Lukelesia securing employment in the county government.
What she did yesterday is going to be a breakthrough for her. We are going to ensure that she completes her education without any challenges. And I want to guarantee her that once she finishes, I'll give her a job here in Trans Nzoia.
But what informed Lukelesia to dance for the patient?
If you look at that boy, mwenye nilikuwa namdansia, that boy is a kid, a small kid, and the children want to play. Now, if you don't play with them and they are in the hospital, who will play with them? You see, watoto wengine huko nje wanacheza mpira and all such kind of a thing, but yeye ako confined kwa bed. What can you do? You can entertain them and they can get a little bit happy.
Her supervisor Betty Haemba attests to the fact that Lukelesi is a jovial person at work who loves what she does.
And we really congratulate her. With her, the future of nursing is bright, and also if each and every nurse can emulate what Robai is doing, we believe our future is bright.
In addition, Lukelesia has challenged nurses and medics in general to be passionate in what they do while serving humanity.
We tell them also to view things on a different dimension. How? They should be able to be diverse. When you come to the health sector, it is not only about medication. There is a lot that is involved.
Lukelesi is a second-year student at Kenya Medical Training College, Kitale campus. Bonfas Barasa, TV47.
Right, quite an inspiring story right there. Hope she gets that job. Now, police in Narok County have nabbed 18 people during an operation to curb illicit brew. This even as cases of intrusion into residents' lands in Laikipia County are on the rise. Elsewhere, a 32-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly murdering his wife and setting the house on fire in Kirinyaga. Here is a roundup of stories from the counties.
Residents in Laikipia, led by Olmoran, member of County Assembly, are calling on the government to beef up security in the area to help protect their crops and other property after a series of invasions by unknown herders.
Kutoka hii mahidi ikuwe kidogo, wamekuwa wakilisha hii mahidi na sasa watu wetu ilibidi sasa watoe ikiwa bado haijakauka. Waigie hii msitu, wajue hili hold imefika wapi, tujengee kampu za jeshi huko kwa sababu hawa watu mvua ikinyesha kwao kwa saa hii wataanza kurudisha mifugo zao huko, na wakirudisha huko ndio wanabeba hata ile kamoja yetu ambao imebaki.
Residents say their efforts to ward off the herders have been unfruitful since they come in large numbers and overpower them.
Mimi ninakuta ng'ombe hapa kwa shamba yangu. Nikiwaambia watoke hawatoki. Wakaniuliza, unatuambia tutoke, iko wapi serikali?
In Kirinyaga, police are holding a 32-year-old man accused of killing his wife before setting their house on fire in Murubara village, Mwea East constituency.
Ningetaka ule mtu achukuliwe hatua kali na sheria ifuate ule mtu, ndio maana na sisi tupate haki yetu.
Stanley Bundi is believed to have stabbed Purity Wanjiko, aged 28, before setting their house on fire, burning her body beyond recognition as police recovered a blood-stained knife.
Baada ya kufanya search kwa hiyo nyumba, ulipatikana mwili ya mwanamke ambaye anaitwa Purity Wanjiko, miaka yake ni 28, ambaye ni mama ya watoto watatu. Baadaye ilikuja kujulikana kwamba Stanley Bundi ambaye ni bwana yake Purity alikuwa amemdunga kisu.
And in Narok County, the security team has nabbed 18 individuals involved in selling illicit brew on the second day of a one-month operation against illicit brews. In Siaya, women rights activists are calling on the county government to develop gender-sensitive climate actions that will enhance women's participation at the village level.
Develop and implement gender-responsive climate actions, budgets, policies and plans from the county to the grassroots level that support women in priorities in the climate change and local solutions.
Elsewhere, the county government of Uasin Gishu has commenced talks with the government of Israel to develop partnerships that will revolve around agriculture, energy, ICT and youth innovations, especially after Eldoret town has been upgraded to city status. Sylvia Nyongesa, TV47.
And following yesterday's tragedy in Tasia, Embakasi, where a 7-story building collapsed, different plans to rescue persons suspected to be trapped in the debris have kicked off. Speaking to the media, Embakasi East OCPD Masai Makau has assured the residents that they are in charge and those involved in a shoddy job will be punished accordingly.
Asante sana. Yangu tu ni kwa ufupi, mnamo mwendo wa saa kama 10:30, saa 10:30 jana, nduru zilisikika hapa karibu na Tasia Police Post, ambapo polisi walitoka nje na kuangalia, wakakuta ya kwamba hili jengo liko nyuma yetu, jengo la orofa zaidi ya 6 lilikuwa limeporomoka, limeshuka chini. Hili jengo upande wa chini kuna biashara kadhaa zilikuwa pale, iko saloon, iko maduka, iko vitu mingi zilikuwa pale chini, na kulikuwa na wananchi. Lakini kwa bahati njema, wengi wa wale walikuwa wanafanya biashara upande wa chini walihisi, wakasikia mshtuko wa hiyo nyumba na wakatoroka. So hawakuweza kuumizwa na hiyo nyumba. Ndio nyumba iliposhuka chini walikuwa wote wametoroka. Lakini kuamkia leo tumepata habari ya kwamba kuna watu wanasema, watu kama wawili wanasema ya kwamba hawajaona watu yao. Mmoja inaaminika ni mtu alikuwa anafanya kazi ndani, kazi ya kuchomelea, na mwingine ni inasemekana ni mama ambaye anauzia wenye kufanya kazi kupaka rangi huko na kufanya stima, anauzia chakula. Bado hatujadhibitisha. Tuko na maofisa kutoka shirika la National Disaster Management Unit na pia National Disaster Operation Center ambao leo wametuitika mwito. Hapa now it is a multi-sectoral operation. Ni operation inahusu vikosi mingi sana pamoja na wanajeshi wetu ambao sasa wanataka walete hili jumba chini ndio tuweze kujua, kuna maumbo inaitwa sniffer dogs, iweze kunusa na tuweze kutafuta kujua ikiwa ni kweli hawa watu ambao wanasemekana wajulikani mahali wako might there be trapped.
Right, and matters education as the Presidential Working Party on Education Reforms Task Force tasked with evaluating the competency-based curriculum prepares to wrap up its work. Focus has also been shifted to grade 6 students expected to sit for the national examinations slated to be held on November 28th. Lucky Heriano with views on the CBC from various counties.
With less than 10 days to go before the Presidential Working Group on Education Reforms submits its report on educational reforms, mixed reaction from different quarters continue to come to the fore regarding the new competence-based curriculum system.
So managements for the institutes, we have 5.
Parents have insisted that the new curriculum will burden them if the government will not streamline a few issues surrounding the curriculum.
People, they have actually, majority of them, 80%, they are saying the curriculum is good. The CBC is quite okay, but with a rejoinder that ABCD should be done.
When it comes to the funding of the education, the capitation that was there 10 years ago is the same capitation that the schools are running on, and that becomes a problem because there's inflation. Materials are costing double what they were costing in the last 10 years, so it becomes a problem procuring the same materials with the same money that was given like 10 years ago.
Parents have insisted that the new curriculum will burden them if the government will not streamline a few issues surrounding the curriculum.
We want the existing teachers to teach those programs, which is practically not possible. We are talking about the realignment of the learning loads to the levels of learning, so that of course we do not have students or pupils being overloaded.
But as much as the new curriculum is said to be expensive, parents have been urged to be patient with the system as the government continues to receive inputs from across the country. A full report is expected to be submitted on 18th this month. National Parents Association Chairman David Obuhasa has called on parents to be patient on the new system and not to complain, even as the government looks for win-win solution on the issue. He argues that many countries have embraced the system and it has worked.
So parents should believe in CBC because it's a system of education that is there to stay. It's a system of education that is going to change the lives of these children as far as job marketing is concerned, not only in Kenya, all over the world. Because many countries in the world, the system of education at the primary school level is CBC. So Kenya cannot be an exception. We have to allow this, and we have to embrace this. Education in Kenya is said to be free, but we don't know how free the free that's being talked about is. How free is the education in Kenya? So parents want to hear from the government that is it going to be free, completely free, where the parents will just take the children to school and have them back at home, and the government has to meet all the costs.
Grade 6 students under the curriculum are expected to sit for their national examination on November 28th, their fate lying on the final report that will be submitted to President William Ruto. Lakiriano reporting for TV 47.
And from that, Vice President of the Supreme Court, Philomena Mwilu, has acknowledged that accountants have a huge role to play in ensuring there is accountability of public funds while managing resources and revenue. Speaking during the ISPAC annual seminar, the Lady Justice has called on the professional team to call out corrupt incidences in their workplaces, urging them not to cover up impropriety.
Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu has asked accountants to shun covering up impropriety and rather call out corrupt incidences in the respective organizations that they work in. Mwilu says that accountants should put to an end audit fraud in both government and private entities by being accountable, which will lead to a reduction of case backlogs in the justice corridors.
As gatekeepers to the financial system, professional accountants are the first line of defense to prevent the misuse and misappropriation of public funds and the movement, transfer, or transaction in these illicit funds.
The Chief Justice spoke when she graced the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya's launch of this year's annual seminar in Mombasa County.
Whether it is the misuse or misappropriation of funds and resources, accountants in the justice sector institutions can stop systemic waste and corruption, ensure accountability for such incidences, put in place systems to prevent their recurrence, thereby stopping them from ever happening again.
The ISPAC 39th annual seminar will run until the 11th of November, where thousands of professional accountants will engage in idea sharing to suggest solutions to challenges facing global businesses' practices.
I urge you, my colleagues, professionals, to deploy your professional skills to encourage leaders to direct their organizations towards achieving sustainable economic, social, and environmental performance.
The conference themed Role of Accountancy Profession in Creating Sustainable Business Practices will seek to identify the role of the accountants in warming up the economic sector that has seen many families struggle with basic needs occasioned by the high cost of living. The professional team has also identified drought and the Ukrainian war as the main catalyst to the current inflation trend, conceding that accountants need reskilling and retooling to hold a mandate in encouraging business growth in the country. Paul Munio, TV 47, Mombasa.
Now, the Education CS, Ezekiel Mashogu, has clarified on the ongoing debate about abolishing university funding, saying the government is committed to supporting institutions of higher learning and that it has already allocated capitation of 50 billion Kenyan shillings meant for university funding. And as our senior education reporter Sharon Baranga reports, Mashogu says his earlier sentiments on the same were taken out of context.
Forever. Solidarity forever.
A day after the university's academic staff union expressed its disappointment at Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu on his views about the government not funding universities, Machogu has responded saying what he said was misreported.
And I want to make a clarification. Nobody ever said, I repeat it here, that university funds are going to be done away with. No.
He then gave a breakdown of monies the institutions of higher learning will be receiving from the government.
Allocated a capitation of 50 billion for university education and another 15.8 billion to the Higher Education Loans Board. 50 billion for university, and I want to assure our universities that the 50 billion and the other 15 billion to the Higher Loans Education Board, this is ring-fenced, and nobody is interfering with that money. Even the cost-cutting measures that are being undertaken with other sectors of the economy for education, all the funds as allocated by Parliament are ring-fenced.
Recently, the Universities Fund revealed that public universities in Kenya have debts amounting to over 56 billion shillings. Collectively, the institutions of higher learning owe the Kenya Revenue Authority, pension schemes, part-time lecturers and SACCOs, among others.
Government is supporting universities, and the government will be able to continue supporting universities through capitation and even infrastructural funds that the government does support universities each and every year. We have said as a government, if it is money for research, we want it increased from 0.8% to 2%.
Even though public universities will be receiving monies from the government, Machogu's advice to the institutions of higher learning seems to be borrowed from the same script from the Universities Fund, and that is, the learning institutions should look for alternative ways to mobilize resources, something UWASU is opposed to.
But we are also asking, and this is what we agreed when I was in Dedan Kimathi University, that if there are other ways that we can also be able to generate income for our universities, why not? Because universities are also supposed to indulge in research and innovation.
And the minister was saying that the universities should be innovative. And what we are asking, why can't other state departments also be innovative, so that they generate their funds to facilitate their activities? Why only public universities? Is the Ministry of Education also innovative?
Here are some reactions to Machogu's statement from Parliament.
How can somebody say that they are even thinking of not funding our universities when the funding that is going to the universities is so menial, it's not even enough? Our lecturers cannot do research, and a country is developed through research and innovation.
A statement that was issued by the current CS Education stating that the government will no longer fund universities and that universities should find a way to fund themselves. Be that as it may, we also advise Kenyan taxpayers not to pay taxes until the government finds an alternative way of sourcing for the funds.
Egerton and Moi universities have been pointed out to be among the most ailing institutions of higher learning in the country financially. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
There is one particular conversation we'll be having with the panelists this particular morning, discussing matters education and funding, who is supposed to do what, how much is enough and how much will ever be enough, and we'll be tying it to the Constituency Development Fund and the bursaries involved in that, and now also to something else we'll be discussing today. The exercise to nominate members of Parliament to the East Africa Legislative Assembly will kick off today, with independent candidates expected to appear physically. Notable names that lost in the last general election have been featured in the list, as Paul Kirobi now reports.
The battle to represent Kenya at the East African Legislative Assembly will kick off tomorrow, as key politicians who lost in the previous elections, as well as their relatives, have been proposed to battle it out with others. Candidates will by Wednesday evening know whether they will be on the ballot or not.
It is information which is which out of many queries from the public, we thought it is good to clarify so that everybody knows that they have a fair chance to be nominated to vie for the Yala opposition.
The position has attracted a huge number, more so from the two big coalitions, Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Kwanza. Kenya Kwanza attracting at least 145 people, while Azimio la Umoja attracted at least 96 applicants. Out of this, at least 15 from Kenya Kwanza are likely to be on the ballot, while 12 are from Azimio la Umoja. Parliamentary political parties from the two coalitions will have 27 nominees, being 3 times the total country quota of 9 for consideration by both houses. The distribution of the 9 slots is dependent on the parliamentary strength of the parties in the House, meaning Kenya Kwanza will have more representatives as compared to Azimio. Already, the Senate and the National Assembly have established a joint committee to steer the nomination process tomorrow before the publication of the original list. Among the notable names likely to feature in the list is former Kieni lawmaker Kanini Kega, who lost in the last election, the sister to former President Uhuru Kenyatta Christina Pratt, KANU chairman Gideon Moi, the son to Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka Kennedy Musyoka, who is seeking another term in the Yala, Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, Fatuma Gedi, Nick Salat and Suleiman Shabal.
But the slots provided as 27 are only from political party. There is a case in East African Court of Justice from one partner state where members who applied as independent candidates claimed that their partner state did not give them a chance. That's why we have called you, so that those who have applied as independent do not imagine that they are already locked out.
To the 16 independent candidates, thorough vetting will be done according to the rules of Yala to establish whether or not a candidate meets the requirements for elections set out under Article 52 of the Treaty for the establishment of the East African Community.
They are not locked out. We already received 16 and we expect to receive more. So long as they meet the threshold, they will find their names in the ballot.
The election for the 9 individuals to represent Kenya in Yala will be by secret ballot on November 17th in Parliament. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Renal Matters Health and the county government of Nairobi is facing numerous challenges to implement its mandate barely 2 months in office. One of the major problems affecting the government's performance is the health sector, which faces a number of challenges. The story was produced by Andrew Juma.
Barely 2 months after taking the oath of office, Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja is now staring at an ailing health sector, which has for a long time been on the headlines due to complaints from the public.
Yes.
2 months ago, the Nairobi boss made an impromptu visit to Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital, where the situation was worrying. The governor promising to take steps to solve the matter.
We must do our best to protect life and to give the people of Nairobi the service that they deserve. I want to give that assurance that I will not rest until that is done.
Both Mama Lucy and Kenyatta National Hospitals have been on the spot due to alleged negligence that led to loss of lives, attracting public anger.
I am wondering why this hospital did not even give a referral to Kenyatta. I would be very interested when the management is here, Mr. Chairman.
The Nairobi health workers are now requesting to meet the head of state, President William Ruto, to share with him some of the challenges affecting the facilities.
Rais wa Kenya ni mtu mzuri. When he was campaigning, he campaigned on a platform of inaitwaje bottom up. Sidio? If you look at the location of Mama Lucy, hata ukiangalia mahali iko, sini ya masafara na mahasla. So the safaras and the hustlers, if the Senate, for example, want to say you want to close Mama Lucy, what are they? Which sign are they showing the president? They are not supporting the agenda of the president on the health issues.
And these are management issues which start from the president. And my colleague said very well. We start from the president, come to our Senate, and even to the respective county governments. So let's not blow this matter out of proportion. Let's continue strengthening the systems we have. And more so, what I said in terms of health financing. Let's ensure that we finance our healthcare systems to the required levels so that we can get the services we so demand.
The Nairobi members of County Assembly on Tuesday held a consultative meeting with civil society organizations trying to find solutions to the matter.
Well, let's stick with matters health for a bit. And the Senate Health Committee on Tuesday met Kiambu County Governor Kimani Wamatangi and the Thika Level 5 Hospital Management in a bid to unravel the turn of events that led to the death of Travis Minor, a 2-year-old who died after sustaining injuries from a fork jembe lodged in his skull. And as our reporter Elizabeth Atieno tells us, Thika Level 5 Hospital Management has decried the poor healthcare system in the facility, which has made it impossible for its medics to perform some vital medical procedures.
It is in this homestead located in Kilimambogo area, Kiambu County, where a shocking and tragic incident ensued on the 10th of October 2022, when 2-year-old Travis Minor was hit with a fork jembe that lodged in his skull. His mother, Judith Mudhoni, then rushed him to Thika Level 5 Hospital for treatment, but that was impossible considering the sorry state of the facility. And now the Thika Level 5 Hospital Management today appeared before the Senate Health Committee to give a detailed explanation of what transpired on the day Travis was admitted.
The 10th of October 2022, I was consulted as a third on-call surgical department on the above-named patient, Travis Minor, who had been brought to the Accident and Emergency Department at Thika Level 5 Hospital, having sustained a penetrative head injury by a forked hoe. He was noted to be stable on physical examination and started on mannitol, phenytoin, and analgesia, while at the Accident and Emergency Department by my second on-call, a surgical resident, Dr. Lillian.
The child required a CT scan of the head, which was done at 3:30 p.m. on 10th of October 2022 by the radiographer who was on duty, Susan Karimi Dere.
According to doctors on duty on that fateful day, Travis was stable on arrival, but they could not commence the surgical procedure due to the risky nature of the injury and the lack of vital medical equipments and personnel needed in the facility.
And this will require that you have both the neurosurgeon with a operating microscope to be able not to remove anything that the fork jembe did not damage, but remove only what was destroyed and damaged by the fork jembe.
At that moment, the child was stable, but the stability was depending on the fact that those fork jembe prongs were in place, upon removal of which would have provoked other may have deteriorated the condition of the child.
We should be able to introspect and have better dialogue on this question of having doctors punctually and available on call.
Be allowed to hire other doctors on contract for the period the other doctors on study leave. That is why I'm telling you, these fellows at AFIA should stop being jittery. We are yet to start. And people must take their responsibility. And that is why you have counties, you look at payroll, we have so many staff, but the staff are not present because they are on study leave. 2, those staff cannot be denied to progress in their career because as they go on study leave, that is how they become consultants.
At 4 p.m. on that very day, the Thika Level 5 Hospital Management decided to transfer Travis to Kenyatta National Hospital for the surgical procedure. But details have since emerged that the patient was not accompanied by any nurse from the facility.
In this situation, there should have been a nurse, but what I can state is that our teams are also as pre-hospital providers, are equally qualified. Whenever we have our paramedics, they are equally at almost the level of a nurse.
The late Travis arrived at the Kenyatta National Hospital on Tuesday, the 11th of October at 6:05 p.m. but was allegedly neglected by medics for hours as the family could not raise the 20,500 Kenya shillings needed for surgery.
Ule daktari nilikuta huko alikuwa tu anapaguza meza. Hata kuangalia mwenye ameingia.
Mimi kwangu niliona kama huko Kenyatta wangeshughulika, huyo mtoto hangekufa. Alikuwa anazungumza vizuri.
However, doctors argue that Travis needed to be thoroughly examined before any surgical procedure was performed on him.
The bleed was really deep inside the baby's brain. It was on the left side, and you can imagine the size of a baby's head. And then it had gone in 4.25 centimeters deep. So I think even with the timely intervention, having penetrated the brain matter, there was something that was going to be lost.
The Senate Health Committee vowed to review budgetary allocations for level 5 hospitals across the country. Travis died on the 12th of October at Kenyatta National Hospital and was buried on the 18th in Kilimambogo, Kiambu County. Travis Miner's tragic demise has laid bare the deplorable state of healthcare services across the devolved units. And now the Senate Health Committee has vowed to investigate on the matter and has assured Kenyans that no Kenyan will be left behind in the implementation of the universal health coverage. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47, Nairobi.
Well, thank you for that, Elizabeth Atieno. And away from that, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya legislators have castigated President William Ruto's administration over what they called unwarranted roadside declarations by government officials. The MPs have cited an alleged lack of leadership and direction at the height of crucial issues which need the government's intervention.
On Sunday, November 6th, Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen fulfilled his pledge of making public the contents of the standard gauge railway contract, which has remained under lock and keys for years. However, this has elicited mixed reactions from a section of the political divide, as some claim that Murkomen delivered a half-baked contract with an aim to excite the masses.
Out of the blues again, with no prompting or demand by the public whatsoever, came out with what he claimed to be the contract between the government of Kenya and the People's Republic of China over the SGR project. The so-called contract turned out to be no contract at all.
The SGR deal is a 20-year contract loan with a 7-year grace period. Kenya is supposed to repay the amount in 156 months, that is in 13 years. Despite releasing the contract, Murkomen now finds himself in a compromising position as he did not deliver the commercial contract between Kenya Railways Corporation and China Road and Bridge Corporation. This is because of the non-disclosure agreement between the two parties.
It is equally not clear what the CES intended to achieve and whether the decision to publicize this so-called contract was a decision of the cabinet or a product of personal excitement.
What we have a one-man show who is controlling every ministry, who is directing everything, and is doing that through roadside declaration. So the era of roadside declaration has come back.
The disclosure of the SGR contract now puts President William Ruto, Transport CS Kipchumba Murkomen, and former Treasury CS Henry Rotich in jeopardy. President Ruto was the deputy president in 2014. Henry Rotich was the Treasury CS and CS Kipchumba Murkomen was the majority leader in the Senate then.
The buck stops with him, and he had better hold the country together and make his men shut up. We are tired of very many words, and what we want is work, work, and work.
In the contract which helped former President Uhuru Kenyatta build what was Kenya's most expensive infrastructure project, Kenya was bound to keep the details of the deal secret. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Right now, the man poised to succeed Hilary Mutyambai as the country's next Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome, waged war on cattle rustlers whom he described as terrorists while pledging to tame endemic corruption in the National Police Service. Koome, who appeared for vetting before Joint Parliamentary Committee on National Security, was also hard pressed on extrajudicial killings and police conduct during his reign as Nairobi County Commander.
Japheth Koome Nchebere.
With 31 years of experience as a career police officer, having risen through the ranks from a constable to the Inspector General of Police nominee, the man expected to succeed Hilary Mutyambai at Vigilance House spoke tough on cattle rustlers, waging war on the warlords who finance raiders after MPs from the North Rift raised questions on a recurring tragedy that continues to claim lives.
I'll come back to this committee so that livestock clustering is treated as a terrorist act. That way, any livestock lot or we shall arrest will go to jail for life.
In what could mark a radical departure from his predecessor, Koome, if approved, pledged to fight graft among traffic officers, terming it as ugly and unacceptable, saying he will reward Kenyans who report corrupt officers. Roadblocks, a key conduit of graft, he promised will have to be registered while seeking to operationalize county policing authority.
Incidentally, we have very good police officers in this country. 98% very professional, patriotic, is only 2%. Very professional, doing very good job. Therefore, Honorable Gunja, I have the critical mass. I have the critical mass to change that 2%.
With human rights groups present during the vetting and part of the police working group, Koome was taken to task on extrajudicial killings during his tenure as Nairobi County Commander when police raided Mathare and the University of Nairobi in 2017. Still, unmanned explosives at the Kiganjo Police Training College that led to the deaths and injuries of civilians also cropped up.
The matter was dealt with to logical conclusion by a court of law. I was not found culpable.
If approved by Parliament, a lot lies on Koome's shoulders, from ending endemic corruption in the service to fighting runway insecurity while leading a service that is in dire need of reforms. Apul Kamau, TV47, outside Parliament buildings.
Right, thank you for that, Apollo Kamau. And as promised, that will be the backbone of our conversation this particular morning. Matters national security, the vetting of the Inspector General and nominee Japheth Koome, what entails in his entry. And we'll be discussing that with the legislators in the building right now. And we'll be getting into that after this short break. Stay with us. This is Morning Cafe.
Well, do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga,
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
Waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya
It's around 4 minutes past the top of the hour. You're watching Morning Cafe, and as promised, I will dive into matters national security, matters education reforms, and matters whole ELA and PSC slots. And to help us have that conversation, Honorable Member of Parliament for Embakasi North, Honorable James Gakuya, my right, and far right, Honorable Tindaza Sawa, Member of Parliament for Matuga. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
All right. A quick one before we actually get into all these matters. I want to get a quick reaction from you from the whole. It is quite the big story on both the dailies, Standard and the Daily Nation, the whole storm of the presidential term limit. As legislators, let me start with you, Honorable Gakuya, on this.
Let me first and foremost salute the viewers wherever they are watching us from this morning, and especially those from Embakasi North constituency. Coming to the matter on the first pages of the newspaper, I believe that in fact laws are not casted on a stone, and proposal is always a proposal until when that proposal is adopted to become a law. And any member or any citizen who might have a thought actually can alive with it. But after it has been taken to where it's supposed to be discussed, I think that process is a democratic process, and therefore nobody can be able to demonize that. I think that this is just a proposal, and a proposal will remain a proposal. If actually it comes to the floor of the House, it will be subjected to the committee in charge. They will just digest it, prosecute it, and they will bring the report to the floor of the House. And after that, the majority will decide the way to go. But personally, I would tell you, I am not ready to extend the term of 10 years. This is my personal opinion. I am not ready to give any extra day from to any single member who is a presidential candidate. His 2 terms.
His 2
terms are well crafted, and I have an experience of when this country was one party, and we oversaw what went, and therefore I don't want to purport that there is one person who has monopoly of ideas, and therefore we should also give other Kenyans a space to demonstrate their ideas. And the 10-year term is enough for anybody who wants just to make to move this country from a level to another.
That also reflects on matters apart from the presidency, even the governors and all other elective posts.
After the constitution is very stipulating that actually it's only 2 terms for governors and the president, and that's okay, and I'm very comfortable with that. Any other proposal is welcome, but is subject to meet the threshold, and the threshold is the floor of the House. We will finally determine where majority will stand.
Honorable, so is this just a distraction from other matters focusing the country?
Not quite. First, let me start by thanking TV47. It's a while since I was here.
Welcome back.
So take the opportunity to thank my people who are watching all over the country. You see, in this constitution, especially Kenya, we are so democratic that you can literally say, act, in any manner, in any way, associate with whoever you want to be. You remember, prior to the general election, there was the issue of other people being limited to associating with the other members, and it didn't work, literally. In fact, it worked to the advantage of those who are not supposed to be associated with. So, when it comes to the freedom of thought, as Mheshimiwa Gakuya said, I can't remember the year, but a while ago, within this country, it was deemed that it was treasonable to imagine of the death of someone, not just to act or do anything, but just to imagine. It is also treasonable. So we are way past that. And this is where we are, where one now can actually think and say, of course,
whatever. The whole freedom of speech.
The whole freedom of speech, which is enshrined in the Constitution. But again, given that one, once one has his own thoughts, we don't demonize them. It is upon to the country. And I think the mood right now, generally, apart from speaking on my behalf, myself, that there is no need, it will be totally needless to extend the term or imagine otherwise. You know, we are not actually extending the term. You can imagine if we had a president who was 74. That would mean he would not be able to stand for a second term. You see? So I don't know why we are just thinking about the extension of the term. But I think the idea of 2 terms is basically it's a doctrine in management in the corporate world, where a CEO is hired for, in fact, a term of 4 years, like the way Americans do it. It's not even 5, it's 4 years. And then for another 4 years. After that, it's assumed that you should have been able to do all what you wanted to do. All the ideas that you should have had, you wanted to implement, you should have implemented them if you are given a second term.
Okay.
And therefore, you give another opportunity. So it's a whole doctrine even in the management world. It's not about the political world. But before I end, I'm imagining now, why not the MPs? Why should the MPs, myself, continue indefinitely, not the 2 terms? He has said there are so many people out there, Mheshimiwa Gakuya, and I agree with him. But why not the MPs? Why not the senators? Why not the others? I think
my exact question, actually.
Yeah, I think my having been jogged by Mheshimiwa Yakub, I think it's high time we also looked at the terms of the other elective positions, not only the president and the governor.
So it's basically healthy that we're having this conversation now.
Yeah, I think to me it has taken my thoughts to another level, that it's high time we also actually thought about term limits for the other elective posts. Because why only the governor and only the president? Why should an MP be okay, I know this will not lie well with Mheshimiwa Gakuya, who is doing his third term, I think. But I think that is a discussion that can be taken forward healthily. And of course, the Kenyan people decide, it will subject to public participation and all that. But from the corporate world, I think 2 terms, 5 years, but 4 years, the way the Americans do it, and they're the most developed country, if we are to borrow from them, the superpower, then I think we should be looking towards that direction.
Maybe,
actually, on that,
I just want to underline that too, from where my brother has stopped. I just want to say very simply, it is not wrong. It is equally healthy also to determine whether it is 2 terms or what the limit of term of other elected position. But let us note that the packages that goes together with the retirement of those 2 positions, and this is the presidential and governors, is quite enormous, quite big. If the country can afford to give the rest of the positions equal packages, I think nobody will say that you go to just to stick there. You can equally serve 2 terms and go. But you go home followed by those good packages, so that as you retire, you don't retire as a beggar.
Right, let me conclusively on this matter. The MP who raised this is, UDA affiliated. He's a member of parliament under UDA. If this particular proposal will be tabled on the parliament, what kind of mood are we to expect?
First and foremost, it must get the threshold, because first and foremost, actually our constitution alludes that such a bill has to get back to the people, public participation, and the people will give their take on it. And thereafter, the committee, which is probably the committee for JERAC, will take charge on it. And I am telling you, there is no any bad feeling or bad faith on it. It will be treated like any other bill, and it will be given its mandate, and the report will finally come to the floor of the House, where the House have the final mandate. And the final mandate is where the majority will stand. And therefore, it will be treated like any other bill. It is not special.
Right.
Yes.
Let me just close on this. Honorable Sawa, does this speak on the whole? Because most of you as legislators, maybe from a particular party, there's always a communication from the party leader of what to say and what not to say and all that. Where does the whole communication flow
those restrictions are long gone, where the party leader, or for that case, since we're the Kenya Kwanza government, in other words, you are saying that the president himself will tell us what to say and what not to say. Those conditions are long gone. We are elected by the people. We act and deliberate on the wishes of our people. I could differ between me and him, though we're in the same Kenya Kwanza, because I'm speaking on behalf of my people in Matuga, who have different priorities, and he's speaking on behalf of the people of Embakasi, who have different priorities. So those differences will be there, but it has not happened, and I can't see it happen where one will be forced to behave or act in a particular manner simply because of a debate or a motion probably trying to favor somebody.
Is there communication with maybe the party leaders, members of the party before?
Of course, we have PGs. No. Of course, we have PGs. But you see, it is the role of every legislator to legislate. You see, one of our roles as a member of parliament is to make laws. So if I have an idea myself, like I've been having a bill to amend the Retirement Benefits Act, because it's a whole bill. That I don't have to consult the president, I don't have to consult the leader of majority, I don't have to consult anybody. There is a whole process where I will only go to the legal department and then therefore write a letter to the speaker, and the speaker approves. I don't think the speaker will also consult any other person before he approves. But on this particular bill, what I can say right onset, I can't see it gaining any support. One, for a constitutional amendment, you need a 2/3 support from the members. So it's not just any bill that one will write to the speaker that I want to amend this. You see, the process is a little bit tedious, but overall, I can't see the flow of the House. It's very unpopular. But of course, he is every right. And any other member has every right. Like I'm looking for a member who will try to bring a bill to limit the terms of parliamentarians.
Right, we're definitely within 50 days into the new government, so we definitely have to wait and see on that. And also today we will expect Haki Africa to to condemn Yakubu's remarks, so definitely expect that for today's remarks. Now, away from that, let's get into matters security, and I'll start with the Honorable Gakuya. The whole vetting for the IG nominee, Japheth Koome. Do you feel like Koome is the silver bullet in security matters as a country?
One, the officer looks an experienced fellow. He has been in this particular field for long, and he has performed in various cadres within the force. And to me, I think he has what it takes. I watched his interview. And if I were the one who was giving what we call a percentage of performance, I could give him 60%.
60?
And I think 60%, that tells me he can be able to make it.
The whole 40, we're curious.
No. There were plus and minus. And according to due to my own assessment, I can give him 60 out of the total 100%. And that small gap does not mean that he cannot be able to perform. It could be only bad when it was minus 50. But when it's plus, I think the fellow can do.
Basically, he's past your past mark. Honorable Sam, I'm now even curious to know your percentage on him. But then, even as you come in on that, what kind of characteristics were President William Ruto looking for when he named Japheth Koome to be in this particular position?
Well, let me start by saying I've known Kome since the university days. Probably this will be interesting that actually Kome is a civil engineer like me.
Okay.
Yeah, we graduated from the University of Nairobi. He was my classmate. He's a civil engineer. Yeah, and it's interesting to have a civil engineer as an IG of this country.
And definitely, I'm actually curious what kind of a student he was in class.
No, he was quite a good fellow. You know, in engineering, of course, you normally pull some bit of a serious face because of the courses that we are doing. We hardly have any extra time to jog around. But of course, once you get your first degree, and this I've said for even the young coming people, you pursue what is in your heart. The first degree basically allows you to basically do anything. And that is why as a civil engineer, I decided to join the police force. And now he's the AG of this country. And I believe we went there because it's something that he loved. He had passion for it. So you can imagine somebody from an engineer to the police force, there's somebody who really has passion for that job. And I think that is why it has taken him to where he is now. It has rewarded him having taken that divergent path.
You still talk, both of you?
Yeah. Not quite a while. You know, with the kind of work he has and the kind of work I have, no, we've not. We met once or twice at that level, but on social gatherings, not on serious matters. Okay. Such. But having said that, I think Kome should be able to make the best IG that you've been looking for. There could have been minuses, as Mheshimiwa Gakuya said, but we are also looking at those minuses with the environment that he was working. You see, sometimes you are put in an environment where you cannot actually show your true potential. You cannot actually do what you would want to do. And with the Kenya Kwanza government having come in and given the police force basically all what it needs, all the freedom, all the budgetary allocation, having been given an opportunity to run their own accounts, this is where now we are going to see a different police force. And I believe under the watch of Kome, this should actually come out. And of course, the Kenya Kwanza government have already assisted him. We've said, let every person do his own work. If it is the police, do their own work. If it's the county commissioners at whatever, let them not interfere with the political environment of the day. So I cannot see the best environment of an IG like now. And given that he's risen through the ranks up to where he is, I believe before the president also appointed him, he should have gotten some intelligence reports on how he has been performing ethically. He's not had any integrity issues. And even when you looked at his net worth, you know.
It's 9 million.
Yeah, when you look at his net worth, then you realize this is somebody who has been working diligent. Because having risen, especially the positions that he's had, you would expect this guy to have said, well, I'm worth plus minus $1 billion shillings, but 89. You see.
So for you, 89 is a lot. Is a little or a lot?
No, in our Kenyan scenario, that actually will tell you the kind of person that you are dealing with. You see, it is too little for somebody who has worked. Because if I'm to tell you from when we graduated up to now, it's over 30 years. Oh. You see, so and the positions that he has held.
Yeah.
So I think we, as Kenya Kwanza, we are getting now the right team that should be able now to steer this country in the right path.
And actually on that, you know, the fact that you mentioned getting the right team, let me take a look at Kenya Kwanza's manifesto on security, just on some bullet points to highlight them. Number one, establish contributory benevolent fund for families of fallen or sick officers, harmonize affordable housing as that of the judiciary and executive, give lower cadre officers option of serving in their counties, provide political will, and also within 100 days, review remuneration of officers to be commensurate with the cost of living. In all this, let me get to Honorable Gakuya. The whole Kenya Kwanza's manifesto on matters security and you know, building the whole security in our country. How achievable are all this going to be with now Kome on going to be on board?
First and foremost, let me load myself on that. There was a big barrier in terms of budgeting of these particular forces, where the office of the president was the sole institution that was handling matters to do with the disbursements of resources. Now that already the head of state has given power for them to have an autonomy to at least deal with their own budgets, I think that's a big step forward. We have been in a situation where the police forces were not working at all, where you find that their vehicles has been grounded just because of simple things like it cannot be able to perform their duty because of fuel and small repairs of their vehicles. And once you ask yourself what is happening, then you realize that maybe they are handcuffed, that probably these resources are not recalling. But now that they have an autonomy of their own control and having their own budget, I think that's a problem that is already resolved. Going to now the other incentives that are rooted in our manifesto, I believe that in fact issue to do with making sure that our security forces are being well looked to. We have a history where police officers have been put into their living rooms in a very untidy way, where they have been subjected to share a room, three of them or four. And these people have families. Then you find it is not private at all, and there is serious need to make sure that you decongest them from that situation and allow them to have their individual housing. And the government has taken a big step on this. Okay. And we have realized that during Kibaki, a lot of this housing was in place. It's only that this current regime did not emphasize very strongly to do more from the stage Kibaki left. But I think it's an area that it should be looked into. The other thing is things to do with their remunerations. I believe that in fact the force has to also be seen working for the interest of the people, because you realize that in fact if there is a force which is really in a mixed situation, where we have those who are probably good character, but you still also realize that there is other very bad character within our forces, and especially police forces. And you realize most of them have diverted from the original idea of serving the public, and they have become rogue police officers. And there has been the people in the land with what we call robberies and murder. And this is very, very heinous. And to me, I think the first thing that the IG has to do is to bring back the discipline to this force, so that we can have a force that is seen a very decorum, that are serving with a very decorum way, where at least these people will respect their job, and at least they will get out of these other untidy and heinous ways, and that at least a police officer is somebody who will just stop to his mandate. That is to serve the people. And then the public should also be at least educated, just to make sure that in fact there is a clear interaction where one can be able to report a matter in a police station without being harassed thereafter or being witch-hunted. You realize that most of the people can always has been not able to make very important reports only because thereafter you find the leakage is out and the same officers said to the person, and you realize that person is no longer. And it's a situation which has not been working well. So we need this kind of tidy process to be seen within this force. And these people, I think, they have to change their attitude and make sure that they are there to serve. And then the government has a duty to make sure that if it is to do issues to do with their remuneration, they will be well taken care of. But are the police going to change their behavior?
And actually, now yesterday during his vetting, this is one thing he said. He'll make sure all officers have the badges with them. So, Honorable Sao, how effective is this going to be? When this was actually in KRA, they want to have all the KRA officers have the body cams. So at the end of the day, the common man will ask, who is this going to help? How effective is this going to ever be?
I don't think that will make a difference. What I would actually put to the new IG, once he takes office officially, is to start with the recruitment process. I think that is where the problem is with the police force.
Back at Kiganjo.
Yeah, exactly. The recruitment process, because I can tell you, and this is common knowledge, the current crop of police officers going into the police service are not recruited in merit. People pay, you see, and if I'm not wrong, it used to be 200,000, 400,000. I'm told in some areas it goes up to 1 million shillings. To join the Kenya Police Service. So to me, if there is something that I will tell engineer that he should start with, seriously, if it's to make a difference within the Kenya Police, it is to start with the recruitment. Because when you've bought a position, you know, and so expensively the way it is, then you are not interested in the work, you're interested in the money, how you are going to get back your money. And that is why it has reached a position where you find a junior police officer even doesn't want to be promoted because he had an opportunity to be put at the weighbridge, you know, where I'm told they make up to 200, 300,000 shillings a day. So an opportunity comes for him to go and train to be promoted and says no, and even goes to court. He doesn't want to be promoted. And then you wonder what. So I think to me, those are the issues that if the IG is to make a difference, and I believe we will, he should start with the recruitment process. It's pathetic. You are given numbers here that there will be recruitment in Matuga on this day. Young men and women go there. They are physically fit. They run. They are medically healthy. But at the end of the day, already there is a list for those who are paid. And for some reasons, we are told, wewe naona macho yako ni kama kidogo, haiko straight, you know, so toka. And they end up taking those ones. So to me, that will be the elephant in the room. It's a serious one. It compromises the whole Kenya Police Service. Because we no longer have people who have passion for serving, but they're just there to make money. So to me, that would be the most critical thing that he should do. Otherwise, I think we are now getting the best practices, where when you entrust your security to somebody, then that person should be well taken care of. Otherwise, how can he take care of you when he himself is not taken care of?
And there's also the whole issue of illegal firearms, mostly even in your area around Kwale, and even in Nairobi, around Mbakasi. As legislators, what will you recommend to the new IG if approved by the Parliament? Let me start with you, Honorable Gakuya. Around Mbakasi, there are illegal firearms and all that, but then how do we disarm all this?
I think the IG has a serious duty, because what I'm very sure is that the officers that we have down there, actually they knows all these networks.
True.
And I can tell you, there is a lot of colluding between police officers and these the cartels. And it's only that, in fact, a goodwill that will make sure things will change. Because you realize that, in fact, those who protect these robbers and these nasty groups are the same officers. So there has been this what we call a dragnet, where the officers have been always getting bribes out of this. These people have gone to a mission, they have achieved their mission, and they bring back a certain percentage to a certain officers that protects that particular network. And until when these networks will come to an end, they will be mashed. I think that's the only way that we can be able to move forward. Because it is not that they are not known. They are well known. And the officers know them very well. And they know their dens. If they want to finish them a single strike of day, it will be done. So we only need goodwill from them. So they must either decide whether it is to protect the lives of the people or whether to continue with their nasty job. Yes, it's only that if these attitudes are going to change. I can tell you, these kind of ammunitions can be dealt with in a day, because they know where these guys are. They can arrest them and they can be forced to bring all their ammunition to the front.
This is one particular scenario which actually replicates and matters the banditry attacks in the whole far-flung areas. Kwale is one region affected by this. When you look at Laikipia, when you look at Baringo, just to mention but a few. One particular issue which was raised yesterday by one of the legislators is Japheth Koome has worked around Nairobi and its environs, Nairobi, Machakos, just to mention but a few. And the worry was he may not understand what affects the far-flung areas. No. What do you make of that?
No, I think the banditry attacks have been here for quite a long time, and if I'm to remember well, the time that they were somehow managed, it was during the Michuki era when he was the CS for interior. Was he from Laikipia? No. Was he from Baragoi? No. He comes from, is it Nyeri? The late Michuki, you see. So even if I'm to be from Kwale, I can very well understand what is happening in Northeastern and come up with solutions. So one, there are two issues here. When it comes to the issue of illegal firearms, I would say the matrix is a little bit different, and I agree with Mheshimiwa Gakuya that there is a lot of collusion. It has reached a point where even a police officer hires his gun or her gun for criminal activity. So that's a different scenario. When it goes to the banditry attacks, from where I sit, and I've worked on those areas in my previous life as an engineer, it's unfortunate that the communities themselves have taken it like part of their culture. I would put it that way. It's so unfortunate, and I'm repeating the word unfortunate.
And the police there know who these bandits are.
Yeah, the police will know, because they're people. These are not bandits which come from another country. Once in a while you will talk of the Karamojo, which I think the Museveni side managed and contained long time ago. So these are people who know each other. They are within the community. And because of what Mheshimiwa said, and I had initially also said, the current route with within the Kenya Police Service, you find that sometimes even the police stations within those areas actually collude with those people, you see, for monetary gains. And that's why you are saying with the current government, where they have been now facilitated to act professionally, we expect a lot of difference from these people. Otherwise, during Michuki's era, he was able to contain the issue of banditry from another point that you cannot do this, and if you do it, we are going to catch you. And he did it, and it's more or less stopped. Okay. But when now he was removed and another CS came, then the situation went back to the normal, you see. But our prayer this time with the current IG is that he should use, and already we've said there was a time it was contained, he should use that approach. And of course, the leaders, the political leaders from those areas, honestly, they also take a part to blame. I'm sorry to say this, but they also take some part to blame when it comes to that banditry. They move with the masses that since my people would want to raid this other community and get this, then it's true. Political leaders actually sometimes even aid those raids, and it becomes now back and forth.
And actually, briefly, sorry to cut you short. During the whole run-up for the August 9th elections, this was a whole key issue, and people asking, why is it that we always have these banditry attacks, mostly to a run-up to general elections?
Yeah, and that's why I've actually brought in the issue of politicians from those areas. Yeah, they use it also for their own political gains. And since there is no will from normally the police service or those other institutions to deal with the politicians, then it's like the moment somebody has been elected or not elected and he's no longer interested in that activity, the police or the other agencies, government agencies, assume that they have found a solution. But that is not a solution for that problem. So it takes, to me, I'm looking at 3 stakeholders here: the government agencies, including the police force, the people, the people themselves who have taken it as part of their culture, and the leaders, unfortunately, who've gone to school. You see, and I'm saying this with a lot of bitterness. Those leaders from those areas have gone to school. Most of them are graduates, and their kids are in Nairobi here. Some are even learning abroad. But again, they used the locals for their own political gain. This is very unfortunate. I think my fellow politicians should also act rightly for the betterment of this country and their people.
Right, gentlemen, because of time, I want us to focus on something else in matters education, the whole reforms, and mostly the whole funding for education. And we'll also be diving into the Constituency Development Fund and the whole bursaries involved in it. And I want to start with you, Honorable Gakuya. So the Presidential Working Party, has its roots and its boots on ground, asking Kenyans what they want, changed in the whole education reforms. As a representative of Embakasi North this morning, I'll ask you, what are your residents, saying on matters, the whole CBC reforms, the whole education reforms? What do they want changed?
First and foremost, let me say that, in fact, the reforms are necessary because the wearer of the shoe is the one who feels the pinch. And I think that, in fact, this whole concept of CBC, it has proved that it has some teething issues. I cannot blame the whole system in totality, but I would say that, in fact, there has been that clamor from the community that it is having some teething issues, and especially during the transitions, you realize that, in fact, it was not well thought, or where these people will graduate from this stage to another, whether to merge them with the existing secondary schools or what. And also the facilities were not well thought there before. So those arrangements were done haphazardly in a hurry. And most of the areas, I am sure that they don't have enough facilities to adopt the coming up or the coming up transition. Number two, I still think that since even the tutors themselves, I am not sure whether they were given enough time for training just to adopt the new concept. And it's a matter that also will be required to be taken into consideration, considering that the tutor need to at least to be knowledgeable, so that at least as he takes charge, he is very comfortable with what he's taking through the student. And finally, maybe the parents have a room, and that's why this particular task force is supposed to move all over, so that the people, the parents, can be able to at least express their side. And I think it is a duty of Kenyans to decide what kind of product they want. And I am sure that, in fact, that's why we are left to the point of the majority. If the majority of Kenyans will decide, yes, we want this and this and this to be amended, and then the task force will recommend that. And I think it's better to respect the will of the majority. Okay. So I would say, yes, the process is quite good enough. There has been a big clamor. Let the stakeholders, all of them, engage with this task force and make sure that at the end of the day, we will get their feeling, and their feeling will be considered, and then the task force make the right recommendations coming from the stakeholders. And there, finally, then we can get to have a clear recommendation on how we are going to take it going forward.
All right. Honorable Sawa, as much as he mentions, yes, it's a whole good idea to have public participation and all that, but then at the end of the day, it's it's costly. It matters the whole CBC and its reforms, even as even as these learners who are in CBC right now look forward to one day being in the university. And right now, the education, there's the whole back and forth of funding for university education. So again, where does the buck stop on matters education funding?
Well, it's unfortunate that in this country we normally want to make changes, good changes, but we are not prepared for them, right from the CS and the president himself, because these changes are normally initiated or agreed upon from the cabinet. Look at it this way: since independence, against our neighbors, Ugandans have not changed their education system. Tanzanians have not changed their education system. They're still 7, 4, 6, and then university. And here we are, having changed now 3 times. Are our graduates better than the Ugandans or the Kenyans? Is our economy doing better because of the changes that you've made? Because that would be the other benefit that we'll be looking at. If we are to open our borders, which we have for us, but our neighbors have not, and go by the East African community, whereby we are talking of free movement of services, I believe most Kenyans will be flocking to this country to go and work as professionals, and them coming here to work as professionals despite the different education system. So I think we do things more on political expedience than on what we can actually achieve. During the presentation for the CBC, I did my written submission and I had about 8 points. And I think what Mheshimiwa Gakuya said is very paramount, that in some places, because he knows the CBC fits very well for urban centers where there is Wi-Fi, there are smartphones, there, it works very well, where the parents also can afford, But for me, as a member of parliament of Matuga, the CBC just can't work. If you are to tell me that the grade 6 will join junior secondary and this has to be domiciled in a secondary school, I'm having primary schools whereby the nearest secondary school is 10 kilometers. And this is in the rural, and rural, that's where poverty persists. How is he going to join? It means they will only be ending at grade 6. The government can talk of 100% transition, but we know very well it has not worked because of the economic situations that they are in. So this is something that is totally out. It's good. For me, when I look at it, the content of CBC is basically good. It's moving with technology, and we cannot actually go against the technology. But it would have been upon the government. And this is where now the elephant in the room is, because in the developed world, education is solely a responsibility of the government. You see, if you go to Germany, if you go to UK, they will tell you education is free, and it is free. Here, we say it is free, and we know it's not free, but from the government and the leaders, we say it is free. I think that is what is most intriguing in this country. We know it is the most expensive venture. Any parent right now, even you as a young man, I believe if you are married and you have a kid in grade 1, that is your highest expense so far. And you can imagine now for the next 20, 25 years for that kid, and that is only one kid. Otherwise, it's high time the government actually decides that if they want to educate the citizenry, which is enshrined in the Constitution, they must take full responsibility. You see, before they make the changes, they should start with the budget. You see, how are we going to roll this out? Right?
Actually, for that, the Kenya Kwanza manifesto outlined having the National Education Fund. Yeah. And so the whole thin line between that and what you personally, when you're vying for to be the MP for Matuga, you're solely and actively pushing for more funds for the CDF. So the whole CDF bursaries.
The funds for the CDF is too little. Thin line. No, it's too little. This CDF is also overrated.
Will it ever be enough though?
It can't be enough for as long as people are not able to find jobs and work for themselves. You cannot live on handouts. Handouts will never be enough. It is not a source of any economic activity per se. The problem will be, why do we need bursaries? Okay, every country gives scholarships and whatever. But in our country right now, it's like everybody needs that bursary. You see, even for those who are working, they still need those bursaries because the salaries, and that's where we started, that we have a Kenya Police Service. The salaries are too low, they cannot educate their kid, yet they are supposed now to go and guard an education institution or a bank. That is the fallacy of the whole issue. So, to me, when we come to the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, I think the solution to this is when we talk about empowering the citizenry for economic activity, economic sustenance, from manufacturing, from the Hustler Fund. But this should not be a bursary, it should not be a donation. It should be something for somebody to do something for him or herself to generate some income. That's the only way we are going to do it. But the most important thing is, when we come to this particular issue of education, in any country, it is the responsibility of that government to fund education. Education is very expensive. I agree, we need to change. We need to move with the technology, which is very good. But then we should have started from the resources that we have. Unfortunately, even when we allocate resources, then the other thing comes up about corruption, it's not well used. We allocated money.
And there's actually coming to that, the whole
those classrooms done? No, we allocated resources for supply of some laboratories, some gadgets in the previous government, the laptops and that. Did they reach all the schools? No. And the money was spent. So it's a whole myriad of problems. But to start with, I think with the Kenya Kwanza government, if we carry out our plan, which I believe we will, we should be able to expect a difference. But currently, from where I sit, the CBC is unimplementable in my constituency and in most of the constituencies apart from Embakasi and probably Starehe here in Nairobi. Probably they can implement it.
Honorable Gakuya, he speaks about the whole problems and all that, and he brought up the whole topic of accountability. On one end, as the Kenya Kwanza government, there's the whole National Education Fund, and then now there's the CDF. But then again, there are other funds. There's the whole Senate Oversight Fund. There's the whole Women Fund. Should we just have a consolidated fund for purposes of accountability?
I think you can recall there before, there was what you call government bursaries, which were purely directed from the Ministry for Labour, from the Ministry of Education. But that was abolished. And what has remained is that there is a kitty in the Labour Ministry, which is known as presidential bursary, which is very minimal, because at least there are less issues to do with those most needy, and especially the orphans. And I can say it works very well, though it takes care of very little number, because for me, the constituency, probably between 20 to 30 beneficiaries can be able to achieve that. But that's very minimal comparing with the number of needy students we have. It is very important to understand that, in fact, the situation the country is in, when you feel that actually the country is almost insolvent in terms of economic situation, you must first and foremost understand where this country is coming from. We have just come from a very tedious situation of COVID. And most of the SMEs has crumbled down, and their business are totally closed by that particular fate. And unless there is some measures to make sure that we revive the survival of these SMEs, it is very hard for them to take care of their students in the classroom. And realize that, in fact, I do appreciate that actually we have what we call a capitation for both secondary and primary school, and especially the public schools, where you realize that, in fact, in the primary level, a student can be able to enjoy a full capitation except the feeding. And in the secondary school, the section of day schooling is fully taken care of in terms of other areas except the feeding. So the parent is just left with what we call an element of that feeding program. Okay. But you realize we have a very bad behavior of our principals, where, like now the issue to do with the lobby, we have a very cheap food, which is at least been generated, and the governor of the city has alluded to take care of, where every single student is required just to pay 20 shillings for that feeding program a day. But you realize other teachers cannot be comfortable with us. They just want to click into the old model, where they collect between 2,000 to 3,000 from a single parent by the name of feeding program. But if you do your calculation, you realize 20 shillings times the number of days that students will be in the class per month, it is only 800 shillings. Why do you want to victimize a student or a parent to pay 3,000? Where do you want to take the rest of the 2,000 shillings for every parent? So this business has to stop, and there has to be an accountability. And if these allotment areas is education areas, and the principals are the key persons who has made these programs rotten, because first of all, they are not currently in the school for the purpose of making any good drive or any good environment for the students, but their mindset first is what they are going to get out of this. These people are on their salary, and every other time you find them on the street, just fighting for their dues, but indirectly they have
principals around Embakasi North that you know personally, or
of course. I am talking from my area of jurisdiction, and that is what that's why I am talking out of this particular information, and I have stopped this, and I have just told every single principal I cannot allow any student to be kicked out of the classroom because of that feeding program. My area is in a very close proximity that during the lunchtime, if a student does not have food and does not have that 20 shillings, or the parent is not able to pay that 3,000, then you should not kick this student out. This student is enjoying a competition of the full classroom. Where do you then kick him out because of a lunch?
Then let me ask you this, the 5% that you as MPs are seeking for, how much will it supplement on whatever is happening, the whole bursaries and all that, the feeding programs and all that?
One thing is that, in fact, holistically, we need to look issues to do with how we can maintain and sustain these public schools. One is that the ministry has been so reluctant in terms of development. Since when the CDF came up, then the ministry is like, it was totally reluctant in dispersing what we call developments, part of the kitty. But during the budget process, you realize there is that kitty for development. But once you get out there, you cannot realize it. And once it is dispersed on a manner that it is skewed, so it is not anywhere balanced. Okay. So one thing is, it has to be that streamlining. We must know what package is for each and every school that actually is due for development, so that you do not keep on taxing parents from indirect costs that are not anywhere in the law. Okay. And that's one thing. Then there is an area whereby maybe a new school, and with very few number of students, cannot be able to feed the number of students, the competition cannot be able to make the school survive. Then those areas can be looked into how it can be topped up, so that at least it can be sustainable. So there are areas that actually to strike a balance, but things should not be having a disbursement of what we call skewed things. We have to have a way to go about it, and a clear way, not the way that actually the officers from the education ministry should think. All right. Because that's an area that it is very much airing and aching. Because you realize that there is the number of schools that are giving a lot of favor. You see a lot of resources heading there, but others have been totally sidelined. And I was actually coming to that, Honorable Sawa, even as we chime in into this, how do you convince the electorate that the funds, the whole CDF, will not be used as a political tool during the whole dishing out of funds? He talks about some funds being largely allocated to some areas and not other areas. So some electorates will feel that because this region, we didn't vote for you largely, we may not get the whole favor, and the whole other region that voted you in largely will actually get these funds.
Well, let me start by saying the 5% increment on CDF. I served on the CDF committee myself for the last 5 years in the 12th Parliament, so I have a lot of insight. I took the whole issue of public participation all over the country to get the views of the Wananchi on whether they would want CDF from where it was, that was 2.5% of the national shareable government revenue, or be increased to 5%. That was the proposal, the bill proposed. And I can tell you, they were even requesting if it can be 10%, not even 5%. Why? Because of the problems that they have, because of the
is the 5% enough for now?
Of course, you cannot. We'll never get enough. We are also reasonable, know, because there are other government programs which have to be funded from the national government. It wouldn't be enough, but it will definitely, it doubles the kitty. That means if we would...
Basically works for now.
No, I don't think it is going to work for now because of the needs of those people. The livelihoods are becoming worse in terms of what the people are able to work for themselves and get. People have lost their jobs, not only during COVID, but because of a whole myriad of problems that were there before. So it will not be enough, but it will be better. Okay. In the sense that if I were able to give a bursary check for 5,000 to a boarding school student, which is not enough, it's basically a drop in the ocean, probably now I'll be able to give 10,000. If I were able to give, to assist 12,000 amidst applications of around 18,000, probably now I'll be able to cover more. So that is something in the right direction. But I think the whole issue of accountability, you talked about it, comes in. And it's so unfortunate that most people, including you, the way I'm looking at you, is that you have taken the CDF fund to be the members of parliament kitty, to dish the way he wants, to favor the people he wants, to use it to his own advantage. And the answer is no.
I'm simply reflecting on what the public is saying.
Yeah, that is where the problem is. And you are not, and the media is not assisting us to educate these people. One, people have refused to read the CDF Act 2015. And even when they read it, they don't believe in what they are reading. They will still continue in what they used to believe even before. You see, there is a board which manages that fund, the NGCDF board, which is not put there by the parliamentarians. You see, the CEO and the board members, the directors are not put there by the members of parliament. We do vetting, just like the way we would vet the principal secretaries and whatever. And then the regulations, when it's a bursary, people do application. There is a bursary committee, not headed by the member of parliament. Of course, if it comes to influence, you can influence anywhere, just like you as an individual. You can influence a tender which is being given somewhere else because you knew that person, you could have gone to college with him. Those things are normal. But basically, this fund is meant for Mwananchi. There is no way I'm going to put a classroom in my compound. You see, I'll put a classroom in an existing school or a new school which is needy. And certainly, with most parliamentarians, you will find those are schools for public, where I basically don't have my kid there in most cases. If I'm giving bursary, I'm giving bursary to Matuga students. You know, I don't give bursary to my kid. And this one I can say between me and my God, I've never issued a bursary to my kid. Though I have kids in secondary, I have kids in universities. We give bursaries to those needy students out there, people from Matuga. So how the whole concept comes up that this is money meant for the parliamentarian. And if this money was meant for the parliamentarians, I can tell you, then we will not be having that high turnover of MPs, because every member of parliament is given the CDF kitty. How come during the general election, okay, this time we are saying we've done better, about 60% have come back, but initially those who would not come back was 70% with the same kitty. You see, so it's not a political kitty the way we would want to put it. But of course, if it can be used well within your constituency, then the constituency also actually can see the difference. That well, there's been no favoritism, because if you do it political and favor, that is a way out. You see, they will say you've been, But if you oversight it, because that is our role. If we oversight it in a way that the development projects are cross-board, they have been put where it's needed, the bursaries have been given to those needy people, then that is what a good leader should be, and the people, the Mwananchi, will see that and ultimately be able to give you a second term the way some of us have been given.
What needs to be done though, because either the court ruled it unconstitutional, and right now you're in parliament to try and reintroduce, but what needs to be done differently? The
court ruled it's unconstitutional because it's not in the constitution. Now we have started an amendment, and a constitutional amendment to put it in the constitution. That's all what needs to be done.
Do you feel like
otherwise, for as long as, and we'll take it through public participation, and I would urge you to attend one of them, it will be upon the Mwananchi. If the Mwananchi say, no, we don't need it, then that is their decision, because you are there on behalf of Mwananchi. But I can tell you, the same sentiments will come out, that apart from putting it in the constitution and now making it 5%, they wish it could even be more. You see. Otherwise, that is the solution. It was not in the constitution, we are putting it in the constitution. But of course, in concurrence with the Wananchis when it comes to public participation.
Maybe a rider. I just want to add at least a voice on that. And me, what I would like to say is that the Constitution is very clear. And what the Constitution stipulates, and the reason why we have 2 tiers of government, this was purely to bring closer the services to the common mwananchi. But the road that we have taken, that now we are in third term with this new concept, this new constitution, it have realized that in fact we are not really achieving enough from this devolution. And what is entitled for devolution is purely to make sure that things are working. But you realize that in fact, when there was the matter was taken to court by the same county government, that actually the CDF is interfering with their service mandate, then you realize that actually it was realigned with the Constitution, where the services purely were left between education and what we call security issues. There before, we used to do roads, we used to do power connection, this is street lights, we used to do what we call hospital services and many other, that you can also be able to do what we call water connection and so on. But today, we cannot, because the kitty at least was ruled no to those particular areas.
Okay.
But I would like to say this. It is my desire that the county government could do enough and make sure that actually they deliver the right services to the people. And if this is done, I don't think there's a business of CDF. Even personally, I have no business with CDF. As long as my people are getting the services they want, if it is this bursary, it's available. If it is other services, they are available. Then you don't have to have this other kitty. This kitty is only here to subsidize because the services that we need, they are not anywhere forthcoming. And in my constituency, I can tell you, for the last 10 good years, no single tangible project is there, including roads, including lights, and everything. I has been going extra mile to make sure this service is provided to my constituency. So what do we do in this particular scenario?
Because of time, again, I think I'm being informed that we really have to let you go. But then before you actually go, I want us to briefly touch on the whole ELA and PSC slots before we actually get to hear what our viewers are saying back in Kisii and other areas of the country. So the intro of the ELA members, I believe that the whole application will be today, submitting it to the Parliament as chair of basically the trade departmental committee. What do we expect from the whole ELA members, the whole the image basically, even as they represent us represent Kenya in Arusha, Tanzania?
One thing is that in fact it's a normal routine because it is a constitutional process that the Constitution stipulates that actually there will be that vetting, and the Parliament is mandated to this particular task. And what you do, we just do it in a normal way. And this is our duty, is to make sure that we do vetting. These nominees have their CVs, have anything that is around within their area of professionalism. And the public has been given enough time to bring forth any complaint that they deem against any single nominee, which at this particular time we have to consider. And at the end of the day, the committees that I serve will at least vet 5 number. I will vet the PS for trade, I will vet the PS for investment, I will vet the PS for industry.
That's Abubakar Hassan, Juma Mkwana, and Alfred.
And then I will vet the one for comparatives.
What do you expect from the grilling as the chair? And
what we are going to look is that we must look the professionals and your area of field, and then how passionate you'll be able to present yourself towards that particular docket you are hearing to. Right. And those areas, I think the membership will be having enough time to grill and at least get a response from the said nominees, and we shall do what we call fairness to every member. Okay. At the end of the day, we'll give them their percentage of their performance. Right. And at the end of the day, we'll do just make recommendations that is not final, that it be subject to the nod from the front house.
All right, Honorable Sao, even as we before I get your closing remarks, this the whole ELA, the East Africa Legislative Assembly.
Yeah.
The notable names there, just to mention but a few, do have Kanene Kega, Gideon Moi, Kennedy Musyoka, that is son to Stephen Musyoka, Jeremiah Kioni. We also have Uhuru's sister there. Just to mention but a few, these are notable names, and people would like to know, are these positions to just saved for rewarding loyalists and family members?
You see, when it comes to the nomination of EALA members of parliament, even you are allowed to make an application, you see. And out of the applications, there were applications from individuals, you see. So one, it should be clear to the public that the EALA members of parliament is not a preserve of people who have been in politics, who have been in a particular political party. Mm-hmm. So anybody can make an application, and there are forms that you take, you fill. If you have, you will be shortlisted normally from the speaker's point of view, speaker's office. But then, why it looks like it's a political process is because it has to come to the House for the final nomination.
And actually on that 287 people applied, but then so far you slotted and slashed down to 9. Why then have people, so many people apply and only 9 will be slotted?
Well, out of those applications, one, you cannot be amongst the 9 if you had not applied. So one, you need to apply. You see, whether they'll be amongst the 5, 9, you need to apply. And then now, according to the EALA regulations, the political parties have some slots, you see. But the mere fact that Kenya Kwanza could be having 5 slots, it doesn't mean that it has to take notable names the way you are saying, or Jubilee has to take Kanini Kega.
Okay.
They can decide that our nominee for EALA is someone that you might not have heard of, you see. But again, the problem would be, how do we get his name passed in the House? Because when it comes to EALA members, finally they are voted by the whole House. They are not voted by your party, you see. They are voted by the whole House. The question is, will there be a possibility of a party like Kanu now nominating nominating himself, that is the leader of that party nominating himself, coming to the House and actually failing? The answer is yes. You see, the answer is yes. He can nominate himself, but when it comes to the full House, people say no, he's not qualified. Of course, with some reasons, and that will be final. By the way, that will be final. But of course, since it's a political process, then people will also do campaigns. The people canvass, so to speak.
Okay.
You see, from the point of the party itself, and then across board, because it will be voted across. It's actually a mini campaign, you see. Some of these those who have been nominated actually will spend money to go around and talk to people.
And actually on that, these are positions that are lucrative. At the end of the day, how important are these positions now representing Kenya as a whole?
No, the EALA is very important. Fortunately, I also served on the Committee on Regional Integration for the last 5 years, where our mandate was basically to see the whole process of the East African community integration. So this is a very important organ for our region. And when we talk about its main mandate, where basically we are supposed to be doing a lot of business within ourselves, and with the DRC coming in with all its advantages, and other countries even wanting to come in, then it's a very important organ in terms of actualizing what we initially envisaged. Remember, we had 3 main issues. One, the issue of free movement of goods and services. 2, the issue of monetary union. And 3, the issue of political union, which is the elephant in the room. No wonder it is the 3rd one.
Because of time, I'll allow you to wrap up and have your final remarks.
Yeah, this is our important organ for our region, so to speak.
Your final remarks for basically the whole today, and for people of Matuga who are watching, before we get and allow Honorable Gakwe to leave us.
Well, my final remark would be on the issue of CBC, you see. It's my hope that with the suggestions that the Kenyans will have given, including myself, the 8 points that I've given, they will have only 2 options. One, either to fully fund, if the government has money, if that ministry has money, to fully fund CBC, or just do away with it. It's unfortunate doing away with it because I actually know its content. But if they can't fully fund this one, then it will greatly marginalize people of Matuga. Not only Matuga, but I am seeing up to 80% of Kenyan students will be marginalized by our education system. And remember, education is supposed to be an equalizer. Okay. If we use CBC the way it is, it will be a marginalizer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Honorable Gakuya, your final remarks as we wrap up.
What I would say is that let us make sure that we put things right. And education is key everywhere worldwide. And therefore, we would like to see some kind of routes and louds. We need to make sure that actually sideshows are completely out of space and make sure that, in fact, we get the right thing so that we can prepare our future. Because our future will depend on the skills that we will install to our generation. And therefore, we are not going to have a wasted generation just because we choose the wrong thing for our people. So it is high time that we should think it the right way and give our students the right thing so that in fact they become a value to the country in the future.
Right, thank you very much. Some wise words from the Waheshimiwas, Honorable Gakuya, James Gakuya, Member of Parliament for Embakasi North, and Honorable Tendaza Sawa, Member of Parliament for Matuga. Asante sana, gentlemen, for making your time here. It is much appreciated. And I want us to cross over to Kisii County, where I do hail from, by the way, where Alfayo Kombo is. Alfayo, beautiful morning it is this Wednesday morning. And we have, discussed quite whole matters, national security, matters, education, funding, and obviously the whole Yala PSC slots. What are the residents there, saying about all these issues on today's Bunge la Mwananchi?
Thank you very much, Stanley. I'm getting you very well from these sides of County 045. And the residents here are very, very antagonized. And I'm with them here. Maybe I have one of them here to tell us what is their impact and what do they feel about the education CS speech the other day and the issue of the security and on the issue of the term limit of the president. What's your feeling?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Peter Momanyi, resident of Kisii. I want to react to what CS Machog said. We want our student funded. We don't want to take away the funding because education is key in Kenya. And maybe what we should look at is the quality of education in our government institutions, that we advocate for that. Secondly, about the term limits, I want to say categorically that the 2010 Constitution stipulates very well that we should have the term limits 2 terms. And that's okay with us. We don't want any other term limits. The MP for Fafi, the residents, the people who elected him, he needs to ensure that they get food because there is hunger there. They get clean water. Proper infrastructure, not to please the president. What he wants is to just maybe publicity or to please the president. But we want term limits to remain the same, and everyone should confine to that. Ensure you deliver. Thank you so much.
The issue of insecurity in the country, what is your feeling?
About food?
Yes.
Yes. About food, I think every county government, especially those that are affected, they need to have long-term plans so that they plan before that every year we have drought and we have food shortages. So each government should put in place measures to ensure that when this time comes, they are ready to serve the people, to protect the people from hunger. They have the containers to store food so that their people are fed well and their animals. I want to say that when you go to the investigation, they can have green pastures where they can cut grass and then they store. That is A. And then in time of drought, they transfer to Turkana. That will work well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pengine nipatie mkazi mwingine.
Asanti. Kwa majina yangu naitwa Mofat Athandi. Mimi ni mwana bodaboda. Ningechukua hii fursa kusema ni asanti kwa serikali yetu. Ningependa sana hii mambo na education, serikali isupports education, kwa sababu bila education tutaweza pata watu wengi, vijana wengi hawana ajira, na wengine ambao wataweza kukua hata majangiri. Kwa sababu gani? Bila education. Ningependa serikali itusaidie sana, isupport na iongeze pesa kwa universities na hizi shule zingine, watoto wasome, ndiposa wengine wakuwe madaktari, mainjinia, watu, kila mtu aweze kupata, kila mwanafunzi apate ajira yake, iweze kumwezesha kujinawiri kimaisha. Sababu hii Kenya tumekuwa na tatizo mingi sana, sababu watu wengi hawana ajira. Siku hizi tuko ni self employment, tumejiajiri sisi wenyewe. So wakienda pale shuleni wataweza kupata masomo yao, wasome kwa kila ile kiwango ambayo anaweza kujisomesha, aweze kupata kazi yake ile yenye kuna akili yake. Hata serikali pia itaweza tutusaidia na kampuni mbalimbali. Ukiwa umesomea course fulani kama ni mason, driving, electricity, whatever, itatusaidia. So tukiendelea kukaa hivi, wacha tuseme serikali itusaidie, isaidie wanafunzi, iwapee support, iwapee moyo. Familia mingi iko chini sababu ya kimabato. So ningesema serikali isaidie wananchi.
Na pengine upande wa tuliona kwamba mbunge wa Faki alikuwa anapendekeza wapo wa limit ile ya urais iweze kusongezwa mbele. Unaisije kama mkazi wa?
Mimi ningependa kwa hiyo side wacha kila itamu ikuwe miaka 10 wasisidi hapo, kwa sababu kila mmoja anahitaji. Wewe ukipata yako udumishia wa Kenya vizuri, miaka yako ikiisha achia wengine na wao wapate.
Naam, asante sana. Pengine nipate mkazi mwingine.
Okay. Asante sana. Kwa majina ni Dennis. Mimi nataka kuongelea vitu 2 ama 3. Kitu ya kwanza, mambo ya education. Ukweli, we want the government to fund the universities, kwa sababu there is no way tunasikia eti CS ameongea, amesimama na anasema eti wanataka kuscrap mambo ya kufund universities. Hiyo pesa ambayo universities wanapata inasaidia, because hata saa hii ukiangalia universities mingi, hata kama sisi watu hapa Kisii, ambao huyo CS ambaye ni Machogu ametoka hapa kwetu Kisii University, ukienda huko iko shida. Watu walifutwa kazi hata hawajalipwa, wengine walikuwa na kesi huko kotini. So we want the government to fund the universities ili wakuwe na resources za kutosha za kuajiri ma lecturers, za kuajiri staffs, ili masomo iendelee. Pia kwa sababu ya kiuchumi, unaona pia watu wengi wa Kenya saa hii tuna struggle na maisha. Sasa pia wanasema eti hawaendi kufund. So masomo itabaki ya wadosi, kwa sababu kama mtu wako maskini na hana pesa, hivyo inamaanisha haendi kusoma. Masomo itabaki yao, kwa sababu wakati walikuwa wanaojiwa tulikuwa tunasikia wanasema they worth sijui mamilioni. Mtu wa kawaida kama mimi hivi sasa, mtoto yangu akipita akienda university, mimi nitasaidika aje? So we want the government hiyo 16 point something billion ambazo wanafund universities waongeze, ikuwe hata 20 billion kila mwaka, ili pia hao wanafunzi wenye wako katika universities wapate kujikimu kimasomo, ili mtu hata akitoka huko anaenda kufanya hata biashara yake ama akiajiriwa kazi, ili pia, kwa sababu wengi hata hao wanasiasa ukifuatilia historia yao unapata walisaidika, walisomea hiyo pesa, walisoma kwa kupitia help ndio iliwasaidia wakasoma. Wengine wakaenda universities wakapata scholarship wakasoma. Wengi wao hata wenye wako parliament ukifuatilia sio wengi wametoka kwa familia ya wadosi, ni watu ambao tu wamepitia maisha magumu hivi mpaka wamefika. So they have to mind about the common mwananchi ili masomo, kwa sababu tulisikia Vision 2030 walikuwa wanasema is 100% transition kwa mambo ya education. Hivyo inamaanisha hakuna Mkenya, ile mambo tulikuwa tunasikia, hakuna Mkenya ambaye anatakiwa eti awe hana hata masomo. So we want every Kenyan to get equal opportunity kwa mambo ya masomo, awe ni maskini ama ni tajiri. Watu wote wapate kiwango sawa ya masomo. Kwa sababu ukipata mtoto wa maskini, kwanza watoto wa maskini ndio wanapita mtihani na ndio wanaitwa kwa hizo universities. Inamaanisha government ipeane support mzuri ili kila mtu wasome, watu wasiwaje shule, kozi watu wakirudi hapa nje Kenya itakuwa ni nchi nyingine ambayo haitakuwa na mwelekeo. So kitu ingine ya pili, nilisikia jana MP wetu kutoka hapa South Mugirango akiongelelea hii mambo ya term limit. By the way, mtu ukipewa uongozi hata ukiwa 30 years na we ukuwe president ya Kenya, unaongoza miaka yako 10, kama Mungu atakujalia kuchaguliwa mara ya pili, miaka yako 10 enda. Katiba ile ya 2010 ambayo ilipitishwa na Wakenya iheshimiwe. Hizi vitu zingine tunasikia wanataka kuleta hivi, hapana. Ile kitu tunaomba tu government na hao wabunge huko parliament. Ile kitu tunaomba tu, ile kitu hata mimi naomba CDF nayo ifanye nini? Irudi, kwa sababu hiyo nayo inatusaidia hapa mashinani kwa mambo ya mashule na vitu zingine. So government must come out clear. Wawache, unajua watu wakipewa uongozi inaanza kuwafanya mawazibu. Watu wakae relax, wasikue na ile mbio, relax, wanaweka polisi mzuri. Kuna polisi zingine zimechukua muda kuwekwa, waziheshimu. Kwa sababu ukikuja leo unataka kuleta kitu ambacho kinataka kufurahisha mtu fulani, hiyo hapana. Lazima tuheshimu sheria, katiba ya 2010 iheshimiwe. Term limit ni term 2 Mungu akikujalia, kwa sababu pia unaweza ongoza term moja na wananchi wasikuchague term ya pili. Is not a must that you 2 terms, but ile term limit ya 10 years iheshimiwe. Hata kwa magavana wengine hapa tukiwacha hivyo, hata magavana watasema tunataka kuongoza 20 years, na magavana wengine unaona venye wamekuwa wakiharibu hizi kaunti zao ambazo wamekuwa wakiongoza. Wamewacha mambo mingi hapa nyuma ambayo hata yakianza kufuatiliwa ni historia mrefu. Kitu ya tatu, mambo ya security. Like now unasikia kuna mili imetolewa Lake Naivasha, kuna mili imetupwa Karura Forest. Kuna vitu unasikia eti kuna waindi fulani nimesiona the other day eti walikuwa kidnapped. Mambo ya security, our government must put more effort kwa mambo ya security ya Wakenya, tafadhali. Kwa sababu hakuna haja mtu ametoka kwao ni investor amekuja kuinvest, siku kidogo unasikia huyo mtu maisha yake imefanya nini, imepotea. Sio mzuri, hiyo sio kitu mzuri. Wakenya security lazima ikue paved up. Pesa government iangalie huyu minister ambaye amepewa security, Adan Duara I think so, yeye ndiye amepewa hiyo docket. Angalie mzuri hizo county ambazo zinakuanga na bandits. President juzi ameenda huko amesema ana nafasi na bandit. So hata hao wanajeshi ambao wameenda huko DRC wanastahili wengine watumwe hapa juu wachungane na hao mabandit. Uliona siku nyingine huko Paraguay wanajeshi wetu, kijana wetu kutoka hapa Kisii juzi waliuawa, watu wameenda kuangalia mambo ya usalama na wanauawa. Government imeinvest katika kuwapea mafunzo ya usalama na watu wanaenda wanauawa. It's not, the other day we heard that Al-Shabaab wamechukua ambulance ikiwa na mgonjwa. So hata saa hii hatujui hiyo ambulance ilipelekwa wapi, huyo mgonjwa alipelekwa wapi. So vitu kama hizo government must be very vigilant kwa mambo ya usalama, ili pia na sisi hata watu wa investor wanaona hiyo Kenya iko mzuri na wanakuja kuinvest hapa Kenya, because we need investors. Pia watu wetu wapate kazi katika private sectors. Finally, kwa mambo ya food security, unaona saa hii county about 30 counties ziko kwa drought, na we are lucky like our county Kisii mvua ni mingi, hata saa hii unaona inataka kunyesha. But hizo county ambazo ziko na drought, tunataka tuombe government kwa zile ambazo county Mungu amebariki ziko na mvua hapa Nandi, hizo county hizi Uasin Gishu, waweke pesa mingi kwa mambo ya agriculture, so that zile counties ambazo Mungu amebariki ziko na mvua si produce more food, ili sipate kusaidia zile counties ziko na drought, unaona. Ili pia kwa mambo ya pasture, hizo tunajua kuna hay, kuna njia mingi ambazo hata mifugo zinaweza saidiwa. Government iangalie, kwa sababu Nakumbuka siku za nyuma tulikuwa tunaambiwa kilimo ndio uti wa mgongo wa Kenya. So tunataka tuombe government ifund loans zisikuwe available kwa wale wakulima ambao wako na mashamba na wanataka kufanya ukulima. Unaona? So we need more resources ziwekwe kwa mambo ya agriculture ili pia tupate kuinua mambo ya kilimo hapa Kenya, tupate kusustain mambo ya njaa. Wakati sehemu hii tuko na mahindi, tunaweza saidia Wakenya wengine wale ambao wana njaa. Kwa sababu ukiangalia TV unaona minyama wanakufa, watu wanalia. Mtu anakaa 1 week bila chakula. Sio kitu mzuri. Hata ile chakula tunaona government inapeana kama msaada. Ukipewa unga moja bana na mchele kilo moja, alafu tena uongoje paka next week. Sasa hata hiyo haijakusaidia, unaona? We cannot be working like that. We want to look for a permanent solution ya mambo ya njaa ili pia tutafute njia hata kama ni dams irrigation ifanywe, kwa sababu hatuwezi tegemea hii mvua yenye inatoka juu kila wakati. Mambo ya irrigation ikuwe inafanya vizuri ili pia nchi yetu ipate kunawiri, kwa sababu President William Ruto asipoweka mikakati mzuri, he will end up be one term president for sure. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Stanley Kiringita or Nyaringita, as you have heard it from the residents of here in Kisii County. They are saying that they are not with the issue of Fafi constituency member of parliament on the issue of presidential term limit, and they ask the member of parliament to do improvement to his constituency, and even the issue of security. They have asked the government to straighten up and put more enforcement on those sides. It's only that I have from this county of Kisii County, from Bunge la Wananchi. Back to you in studio, Stanley.
Right, thank you for that, Alfaya Kumba, for the whole Bunge la Mwananchi. And that wraps up our whole conversation for today. Skiing matters the state of the nation. And we're going to take a short break. And I'm pretty sure you're hungry right now.